So if you were to bring in a new regime, what you're paying attention to and what you're focused on would be on 2025, but you would also be anticipating moves in the future beyond that, 2026, 2027, 2028, etc. But as we've repeated multiple times, I'm to the point where I don't really care about what the future looks like because we've been sold on future for so long, and we just literally just been waiting for a year where it's, actually about the team currently on the field at that time. So if you were thinking, Lyle, what would Jerry do to improve a 2025 roster versus what would a new regime do to improve a 2025 roster? How much different would it be? Like, if you brought a new regime in, would they decide, even though we need to create budget, we wouldn't trade Randy Arozarena? His feelings don't change. He doesn't care about a new regime. He's just there to play.
Right.
That wouldn't change. If a new regime came in, would the reality of the Mariners have a significant amount of pitching and not enough hitting change, and that they could very realistically trade a pitcher for a hitter? No. All that would be the same. You could bring in a new regime, and they could still trade Logan Gilbert in the offseason, and they could still trade Randy Arozarena. That part's not going to change. They're not magically going to stay because of that.
Which gets back to the root of the whole problem. And as they say in the second Hunger Games movie, Catching Fire, remember who the real enemy is, and end quote. It's true. Like, Jerry's not perfect. We know that. But you think Jerry's top priority in free agency this past winter was signing Mitch Garver? No. I'm sure he would have loved to sign Mitch Garver at the time as a complimentary piece. You think Jerry didn't want Shohei? He clearly wanted him the first time. You think that wavered after what he did for 6 years in Anaheim? No. If he'd had the budget, I'm sure they would have gone after him. They don't. And that's the extreme example. They don't have the budget to sign anybody. I mean, they have the money. They just don't. This ownership group doesn't give the front office the necessary resources, which is what's going to drive people crazy. And I'll be honest, if they have another offseason like we're expecting to see them have, where almost no money is spent because of the alleged RSN problems, dude, I think they're going to start to lose some people. I really do. And that hurts me to say. I want nothing but good things for this franchise. That's what every fan wants. They just want to see this team be great and the stands packed for all good reasons and to root on a team that's exciting and fun and can get to a World Series. But I don't know if that's going to happen. And for so long, people were sold on this rebuild, sold on this core. Stick with it while this core formulates. And when the time's right, we're going to go outside the org. We're going to invest the necessary resources. We're going to do the necessary things to put this team over the top. Well, the core's here, and they might not win 81 games this year. They may finish under 500. And if that's paired with another bad offseason, the nostalgia of the rebuild is going to start to wane on people. I hope that's not the case. I hope I'm wrong, but that's just what reality's starting to feel like. You can tell, you can start to tell people are getting on the edge here.
Didn't we say that last offseason, though, that they were going to lose fans? We did say that.
Yeah, but
and
that was
really lost anybody.
That was after what was still an 88-win season. They were just on the brink of missing the playoffs. Again, we're talking finishing under 500. It would be essentially year 4 with this core. If you want to count like the Julio Kirby Cal time, it'd be 3 years with this core, which would feature one playoff appearance 2 years ago, consecutive years of not making the playoffs, a year of finishing under 500, and then not investing resources again.
I think that I'd be curious to see what the numbers would be to really represent losing fans. I have no doubt people will be pissed, and there'd be a lot of people who would stop watching. But how many? Because as I remind you over and over and over again, there are so many just very casual Mariners fans and baseball fans in the Pacific Northwest who probably think of all this as a non-issue and it doesn't matter. Like, really, it does. And as we know, that's really who the Mariners appeal to. A lot of fireworks nights, a lot of really good marketing campaigns by the marketing team. Seriously, they do a fantastic job getting people into the ballpark with really good weather and a competitive, throw fun out, not always fun, but young and competitive product on the field. All those things are true, right?
They are. And I'm not laughing at what you said about the marketing team being incredible, because they are. That's what drives me crazy, is top to bottom, it really feels like this whole organization is so committed to winning. minus the people in charge. So, like, that's what drives me crazy. You're absolutely right. The people in marketing and PR and, like, media relations and you name it, ballpark operations, they are fantastic at their jobs. The marketing team for the Mariners is awesome. That's not what I was laughing at. What I'm laughing at is I can't hear you or anybody say fireworks nights with the Mariners without associating it with Mark from Maple Valley. We're treated with fireworks and bobbleheads. So when you say that, that's all that rings in my head is that call.
That's fair. That is fair. I had one thing that slipped my mind here. Do you have any other points here? I'm going to try and rekindle whatever I was thinking about.
Okay. I mean, I can try and help you out as we're just sitting right here. Is it something about non-baseball? Is it something about ownership? Is it something about the front office? Is it something about the roster? Still nothing? Well, I will say this. Again, you know what Jerry Dipoto is going to be. He drafts well, develops pitching, farm system's good, but you know there are limitations. There's going to be payroll limitations no matter what. He has not developed enough offensive talent at the major league level, and we're going to have to see what he does. Yeah, okay, now it looks like you figured it out.
Well, I got it back. I will not be endorsing any sort of message coming from the Mariners from the time the season ends through next season where they say, wait until our young guys come up.
Yeah, no.
That's not allowed. Because you know what the reaction is going to be, Lyle? The reaction is going to be this.
We're sitting here again talking about the same things.
Thank you, Brian Kelly.
Mm-hmm. Because guess what? When they say that, the premier prospects are not going to be up next year. Now, we might see Cole Young and Harry Ford, and that's no knock on them. We like both of those dudes. They're really good dudes. We talked to them in spring training, and we know they have some upside. But they also didn't have, like, set the world on fire type seasons in Double-A. As Ryan Divish said, could Cole Young be a 18, 20 home run guy, like 790 to 800 OPS? Sure. At some point. I don't know if at 22 years old in the big leagues that's what he's going to be doing. And you'd be banking on him to help you do that if that message is relayed saying wait till the young guys come up, because that's who's coming up next year. If you're talking about the premier prospects, the three we always highlight in terms of the highlight bats, Colt Emerson, Valentin Celestine, Lazaro Montes. Minimum 2026 is when that's going to happen. And I don't know if it's at the start of 2026. So you'd be asking people to wait another year and a half to see your premier prospects come up in a time where they might not just click right away. Julio didn't. Kelnick didn't.
And when are they going to be good? When are all those players going to be collectively good together? 2028?
Maybe 2027, depending on how fast they develop. Yeah, exactly.
Well, based on what the org has shown us with hitting development, that's no guarantee. It takes only a year.
Right? No, it's true. And I want those guys to come up and be great. Like I just went down to Everett on Wednesday and talked to Colt, talked to Michael Arroyo, a couple other guys. Like they're great, and we're rooting for him. Colt Emerson's an awesome dude. I'm rooting for him to be great. Like he's very very nice, but like very focused. You can tell he's really, really mature for a 19-year-old kid. And he made an awesome play while I was there too, by the way. It was that play he ranged to his left in the hole and made the spin throw. Yeah, there's reasons to be excited about those guys, but guess what? When they're up and they're ready, have an actual lineup around them so all the pressure's not on them, because that's not fair. Look at what it did to Kelnick. Don't do that again.
So let's say the Mariners, let's create a fantasy world. Mm-hmm. Ready? Let's say the Mariners do operate like they want to win a championship. And they have to make this decision on Jerry Dipoto to attempt to win a championship in the next couple of years and make deep runs into the playoffs. Based on what he has done, would you have kept him around for next season?
Under the assumption that they would not bring in anybody better, yes.
But I created a fantasy world where Mariners ownership wants to win a championship next year and is willing, let me clarify, and is willing to put the resources into it too.
So you're saying they could...
Let's swap the Phillies ownership and the Mariners ownership right now in this fantasy world. And they are moving into next season.
Well, then I'd be curious to see what Dipoto could do with an actual payroll. Because, again, he's been hamstrung his whole time here. So it's kind of an unfair question. Or, I mean, maybe unfair is not the right word. It's a tough question. Because we've only seen Jerry operate on a minimal budget. I would be very interested to see what he does with no handcuffs. Just free reins. Do what you need to do. Under the Phillies ownership. Under Steve Cohen, etc. Like, that's my answer to that question.
Yes, then.
Sure, because we don't know.
Okay.
But if now, if he was here next year and the year after, and he had free reign to go do what he wanted in free agency with no limitations, and they still weren't making deep postseason runs, then yeah, I'd look to go find somebody else. And if we're still living in a fantasy world, then you look to poach somebody away from another team that's already a really good GM.
Yeah.
That's what you do. Or like, here's an example too, right? There seems to be some speculation. I saw it out there today on Twitter that Farhan Zaidi might not be back with the Giants next year. But do we know if Farhan Zaidi is for sure better than Jerry? Because he had a crazy payroll when he was part of the Dodgers organization. Then he goes to the Giants. He had the payroll with the Giants, considering they almost gave Correa a huge contract. They almost gave Judge a huge contract. They just extended Matt Chapman. They gave
Blake Snell.
Blake Snell. Yeah. So he did all that with a payroll. And the Giants aren't making deep postseason runs. So if he's doing that with a payroll...
They'd won.
When?
21.
Oh, okay. Well, no, but they lost in the first round that year.
Well, sorry, not a deep run, but they were really good. They won 108 games.
Well, yeah. Okay, yeah. That with a roster that was not going to sustain that year over year. That was a fluke.
People would kill for that.
Well, okay, yeah.
Right
but here's my point. Here's my point. Like, is Farhan Zaidi a for sure better option than Jerry Dipoto?
He's not. No.
So that's the one guy that's a name on the market right now, potentially. And if it's not him, then who would it be? Again, if you had all the money in the world to poach Andrew Friedman away from LA, great. But that's not going to happen.
So, yeah, Farhan would be the only one with recent GM experience.
Otherwise,
running a baseball ops department.
Yeah. Or unless you get Eric Neander from Tampa and way overpay to get him away. That type of thing.
But everything we know, the Mariners aren't going to pay as the Rays might pay Neander more than Jerry makes.
Right.
We don't know that, but everything we can hear of what the compensation like is what Mariners pay out. Could be pretty close.
Yeah, exactly.
Why would you move 3,000 miles for similar pay?
Yeah.
So my answer to that question is, in a fantasy land, I would not keep Jerry if that was the case, based off what he has done. Unfortunately, we don't live in a fantasy land. We live in reality. And I think going into next season, this is your only option, really. And let me make this clear. Like I stated earlier, I'm not looking at how Jerry builds the Mariners for the future. I'm looking at how Jerry builds the 2025 Mariners. Mm-hmm. Because I think that's how ownership is looking at this as well. How does Jerry build the 2025 Mariners team? I don't care what the team looks like in 2028. No more sustainability. Again, we're just kind of done with sustainability, because the only thing the Mariners have sustainably been is slightly above average. So focus on the 2025 Mariners. That's what Jerry Dipoto's job is going to be. And if we're in the same situation a year from now, I will be much harder, much more in the let's find somebody else train. Right?
Sure.
Because then we would have another year of the same product.
Right. But he's going to have to make the 2025 roster better with two hands tied behind his back and basically nothing to work with, as we assume.
But again, the way we know his contract was structured, he didn't have to come back.
No.
I don't think.
But he might feel like he wasn't going to for sure find another president of baseball ops job somewhere else. He might have found a GM job, but president of baseball ops is an upgrade. So
yep. Probably not. So again, that's his choice right there of decision what to do.
Yeah, so he's going to stick with it, but we don't think he's going to have much of a budget. You know what? Prove us wrong, ownership. You think you don't like people saying they're not going to have much of a budget? Well, you can change that. You own the team. You get to make the decision. Prove us wrong. Prove us
Be
wrong.
Nice. Just go sign Juan Soto.
Oh, I'm down. No value beers.
Nope.
No value beers.
Full price, $18 a pop. Every game next year.
Mm-hmm. What was the last thing I was going to say here? Did I have one more thought on this? See, now I'm losing my train of thoughts because we've got our head spinning here. There's just a lot going on with this.
Yeah, I just the thing about the Mariners deciding midseason to keep Jerry and then giving Scott the short end of the stick just rubs me the wrong way, man.
Yeah,
it just doesn't. Just more on par with the bad PR we see over and over and over again of that. Just feels a little short-sighted.